When I first saw them, I was like, oh, more colorful palettes, do we really need this? Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be reviewing the two new 9-pan palettes from Colourpop. We have the High Tide and also the Fine Feathered palette as well. I believe these were Ulta exclusives, but then they did come to the Colourpop website. So if you do live internationally, you can purchase these as well. So these are like mini collections from Colourpop. They come with extra eye products like Super Shock and eyeliners. So we're going to talk all about these two palettes today. So if you guys are curious about them, then please continue watching. Alright, so let's go ahead and break down this little collection. It's very small. So we first have the two 9-pan palettes. We have Fine Feathered, which is more on that berry raspberry side, and then we have High Tide, which is definitely more to the blue teal side. And each palette has a matching Super Shock duo to them, and these are $12 US. I believe these might be new shades. I'm not too sure. I couldn't find them individually on the Colourpop website. And then lastly, we have the creme gel liners for each palette as well. This is $14 US, but these creme gel liners do already exist. So there will be timestamps down below, and also if you just run your mouse along the timeline of this video, you can see this video is cut into certain sections. So if you guys want to skip to a certain part, feel free to do so, because we're going to talk about the High Tide collection first, because it's what I'm wearing currently, and I feel like a lot of you guys were curious about this palette. Like, I got so many comments from you guys asking if I was going to review this, and luckily I did get sent this in PR. So let's talk about High Tide. It's what I'm currently wearing, and first off the bat, honestly, when I see colorful palettes from Colourpop, I'm really not that excited, because I really do feel like they have hit every single color family at this point. There's no need for them to release so many colorful palettes, because they literally have done everything. But with this palette, I feel like it is a pretty unique palette for a monochromatic palette. This definitely leans to the teal side. I feel like with their other blue palettes, they definitely lean more to that true blue, but this has that teal, like Tiffany type of vibe to it, and I really love the shadows in here. Although I mainly focused on the mattes because I did want to play around with the Super Shock shadows, I think everything performed well, and I do really like the variation they have in here. So we do have a good range of mattes that go from light, medium to dark, and then we have the beautiful metallics as well, which you do see a variation in as well with the light, medium, and dark too. So I feel like overall the combo and the selection of teals in here is really pretty. I feel like this actually does add a little something different to the Colourpop palette family. And also, one of you guys told me on Instagram that two of these shades, Muscle Beach and Luna, is a repeat shade from the Dream Street palette, and I'll put that comparison up for you guys to see. And I do find that a little odd how they would reuse Kathleen's shadows in her collab palette and rename them and put it in another palette. I didn't get to use Muscle Beach, but I did use Luna, the deep matte. I will say there is a little bit of a difference in like formulation. The color might be the same, but I feel like in Kathleen's palette, her mattes are very powdery and buttery. This one doesn't have as much fallout as Kathleen's one, so there's a bit of difference in formulation, but there is a decent comparison in the shade. And I think for everything in this palette, I probably can find pretty close comparisons. But I think overall, this palette as a whole, it is pretty unique, and I'm glad they did this. I feel like this was a palette that I didn't know I needed. I really enjoyed this palette, and I feel like it just gives you a different type of blue. Like, this is like mermaid blue. That's the best way I can describe it. So I definitely would recommend this palette. I think the palette performs well. The selections are great. So if you're looking for a blue palette, then this one is a really great one from Colourpop. And then to complement the palette, we have two little Super Shock shadows. This one is called Sure Thing, and this one is called Coconut. I personally don't feel like these were necessary within this collection. If they were just to come out with this as a separate launch, I think that would have made more sense, just because the shade Sure Thing is quite comparable to one of the metallics that's already in the palette. But I guess if you do like the Super Shock formulation, then you might prefer this. But I personally just feel like the metallics in here was already enough. I didn't really feel like these were really necessary. But I guess if you already have a lot of colorful palettes, like you already have a lot of colorful mattes, you want to skip out on the palette, then picking up the Super Shock shadows might be more ideal to you and would add something different into your collection. But for me, since I did get sent both, I just didn't feel like I really needed these two. I would say the shade Coconut is probably a little bit different from this palette. This has more of like a true blue tint to it, but it's still very, very pretty, and I do like the options, so there's that. As for the cream gel liners, these are already existing shades and I already had these in my collection, and I think they did a good selection of picking out the cream gel liner to suit the palette. You don't actually save any money if you do buy it in this bundle because it is $12 and each cream gel liner is only $6, so I don't think it's like necessary for you to buy this right now. Like if you feel like you need one, then just get one because you're not saving money anyway. But I do think the cream gel liners in this little kit is really nice. I think both work really well and they complement the palette perfectly. So yeah, that is just my quick little thoughts on the High Tide little bundle. Let's move into the eye look that I am currently wearing and I'll showcase everything in action. Okay, so now onto the Fine Feather little bundle collection. We have the palette here. I think it's super pretty, and when I first saw this palette, I immediately thought of Bye Bye Birdie, and I reviewed that palette, which I'll leave over here. That palette to me wasn't really a great one. I feel like there was a lot of pressed glitters that I wasn't really vibing with, and there were some shadows in there that was quite patchy, but I really wanted to love that palette, and I feel like this is the redemption for me. This is what I wanted Bye Bye Birdie to be. There's no pressed glitters, everything performs well, but you still get that true berry fuchsia tone. I feel like this one is a little bit deeper for their pink palettes. Like if you see some of their other pink palettes like Strawberry Shake or Ooh La La, Cloud Spun, they have that very like bright pink vibe to it, but this one is definitely more deeper. It has those more berry tones, not that true pink. I feel like this one is a little bit more wearable than their other pink palettes. So honestly, their two palettes that they came out with this time around, I'm really impressed, and I feel like when I first saw them, I was like, oh, more colorful palettes, do we really need this? But once I'm playing with it and swatching everything, I'm like, okay, we kind of did need these. So if you're like me and you didn't like Bye Bye Birdie, or if you were curious about Bye Bye Birdie, I would recommend Fine Feathered more than Bye Bye Birdie. I think this one performs way better, and I think it's just more universal. The tones just make more sense. And again, look how many mattes are in here. I love when a palette has so many mattes. I just thrive. And then again, we have the two Super Shock shadows to complement the palette. Kind of the same thing. I didn't really think we needed this to complement the palette. Like even though there's only two metallics in here, for me that's like already enough. And the two Super Shock shades we have is Bubbly and Plume. I feel like Bubbly looks similar to this shade Tweet Me in the palette, so I didn't really feel like that was necessary. But again, if you just wanted more metallic pinks, you have the options here, and these are really beautiful. Like I like the Super Shock shadows, but I just don't really use them a lot. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. It's pretty, but I guess for my personal preference, I don't really get that much use out of these. And again, for the cream gel liners already existing, I already owned the shade Charmer, and Loverboy is a new one into my collection, but I really do love Loverboy. I will be using it in my look, and Charmer is one of my favorite like deeper purple, so I use this one all the time. So it is a great bundle, but you don't save money on these, so there's no rush to get them, but if you're curious about them, they are nice eyeliners. But with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into my fine feathered look, showcasing all of the products in this bundle. And this, you guys, is going to conclude today's video. That was my thoughts on the 2 new mini collections from Colourpop. I would love to know your thoughts down below. Did you guys already purchase? Are you thinking of purchasing after watching? But I do highly recommend the 2 palettes. I think these really stood out to me and they just performed really well, and I really do love the color story, and they brought something new to my collection, so I would highly recommend the palettes. But I would love to know what you guys think down below, and if you guys did enjoy the video, please get a thumbs up for me. I would appreciate it so much. And with that being said, that is going to conclude today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!